Good morning, everyone. If you don't know who I am Matthew Thompson. I'm the placemaking coordinator for the West Virginia Food and Farm Coalition. And since we've all been in the quarantine with COVID-19, we've gotten lots of emails and calls regarding farmers markets and other farm-based businesses and how they can operate, maybe using a different platform than they normally do during this time. We've seen many markets who already started opening using online tools. We have one of those folks with us today who's going to share their experience. But we did some research and wanted to share some options that are available out there. And the goal of today's call is really to show what options are available and then sort of pair some one-on-one technical assistance with folks around the state after the call today. So if you have any questions during the call, do not hesitate to put those in the chat box. And if someone can answer them during that time, that's great. But if not, we'll get to those right away when we get to that portion of the program. So on the call today, we have market managers, vendors, other producers from around the state. We have some guests on the call today who are going to talk about some different platform options. We have myself and other coalition staff who will introduce themselves a little bit later. As I mentioned, we're just going to share some different options and hopefully get some help to those people who need it so people can get to selling their fresh produce as market season has opened and markets are opening all over the state. So the first option we're going to show, which we do not have a guest speaker for, is the platform called Shear Tribe. Now Shear Tribe Go is sort of their basic model. It allows you to have unlimited traffic, listing of products and images of your products. It allows unlimited transactions. They do have a great support team who's available 7 days a week, and it uses Stripe and PayPal to do transactions. Currently, they are running a free 30-day trial for any new users, but for folks who were impacted by COVID, they are allowing at least up to 4 months for that trial to extend beyond the 30 days. But once the trial is over, it does go to $79 a month for their most basic package, and there's no cost to consumers when they check out with Shear Tribe. And you can go to sharetribe.com for more information. And again, if this is something that interests you, you can take a look at it, and we'd love to help you walk through it. We've all kind of played with all of these options. Shear Tribe is one that does cost money to use, and it does have more bells and whistles than some of the other options that we're going to show. The next option is What's Good, and we have Sarah from What's Good who's going to share some more information about this platform.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me. So What's Good is an online farmers market platform. We've structured it in a way where there's very little management for market managers. It's really vendor driven. So we can partner with markets throughout the country to basically allow each individual vendor to have their own kind of space to allocate inventory, their pricing and when things are available, and of course get paid out individually. But to the customer, it presents as a unified marketplace. So I'm going to share my screen and just going to take you on a quick demo of what it looks like on the vendor side and from the customer side. Just so you know, it's totally free for the market. There is a 5% cost to the vendor. It's actually 5%, not 6%, and a 5% charge to the customer. So that's the only fees. That includes payment processing. We actually allow for market managers to implement additional fees to supplement like additional operational costs that you'll incur if you're going to operate a delivery program or an aggregated program. You can put maybe like a $2 pickup fee for the customer, and as your operation grows, that $2 times 500 orders can really help pay for additional staff or just time spent implementing a program like this. So sourcewhatsgood.com, we have an app here, and then we also have a web browser version. So I'm going to log in as a vendor. So it's either log in or sign up. I'm going to log into a live vendor's profile. So it's pretty straightforward. So the first thing that it would actually take me to if I was creating a new profile is all the business information. So a market outlines their name, their description, their logo, any sort of links and additional information they want to share with their customers. That's all inputted. The next step would be connecting a bank account. So I'm not going to click on this just because this is a live account. We use Stripe as a payment processor. All individual vendors go through this process. There's kind of two options. There's one that will instantly connect their bank account, or there's a more traditional method where vendors have to just input their account and routing number. They wait for those micro deposits. It's very similar to Square. Vendors are familiar with that process. So once that's connected, they're basically like good to go. The only last step would be adding product. So this particular vendor sells both produce and meat. So they have all of these different things listed in different quantities and pack sizes available to them. One of the cool things about What's Good is that people that sell meat can list something per pound. So a customer can buy 1 pound of sausage. It generally comes in a 1 pound pack, but once they pull it out of the freezer and they see that it's actually 1.2 pounds, they can adjust that price to receive the actual price owed to them, just as they would at the market. So that's pretty neat. Adding product is really simple. I'm not going to necessarily take you through that process, but you have the option to designate the category, units, price, pictures. You can make a product inactive. So say you kind of run through the market season and you won't have corn just quite yet, but you want to add it to your inventory so you're ready to go, you can do that. So once you're up and rolling, you have your business information, you have your products, you've connected a bank account, you're ready to start accepting orders. This is just the order page. It offers some like very baseline information, the customer's name, when they place the order, when the order is actually being fulfilled, and then the total amount. There are 3 statuses: pending, accepted, or canceled. Vendors can click within a customer order to learn a little bit more about it. They're asked to accept it. There's a full timeline, just again for reference, and if anything kind of like goes wrong or a customer says like, oh, I submitted an order, they can go back and see like, oh, you submitted it at this time, it started processing, and I accepted it at this time. Additionally, you have a way to communicate with customers. You can post a comment, they can post a comment. That's really nice if a customer has a question about something, or if you just want to say thank you. It's a good use of that function. When it comes time for market day, you use your filters to receive like your pick sheets. So this particular vendor has a market coming up on Saturday. I would filter all my orders for this Saturday. I know that I only attend one market with What's Good, say, because this is a market organization, there's probably a lot of farmers market that might be using What's Good. The vendor only has one What's Good profile, and then they can filter based on market orders. So I'm going to apply the filter. This is just going to show me my orders for May 16th. I have 243. I can click to print. I don't actually need to print. It produces a pick sheet. So I have 240 orders, $2,700 in sales. And then this is just a very brief outline of what I've sold and how much. And then additionally, it provides a customer receipt for each individual order so that I can staple it to the bag and fulfill that. So this is really helpful, especially if you want to go past like just pick up at vendor. If the market wants to aggregate or do a delivery program, you're definitely going to want to require vendors pack per customer and identify that customer's order with their name and additional information. So that kind of streamlines this process. So I will log out of this profile and quickly log in as a customer. So it's the same exact website, sourcewhatsgood.com, or customers can use the app. So this is my personal profile. I'm actually my address is set for Chicago. So I'm seeing all Chicago markets right now. Like I said, like a lot of these vendors have a lot of crossover. So you might have some vendors that work with another market. Again, it's just one unique vendor profile, but they can show up in multiple markets throughout their region. So that vendor that I was talking about and was in their profile, they're in Dane County Farmers Market in Madison, Wisconsin. They're doing a drive-through, so they push about 500 cars within like 3 hours. It's a crazy, crazy program. They flip vendors. Like I think they have 140 producers at their market. They can't have all of them participate in this drive-through, so they just kind of rotate week by week and offer different products and different vendors. So that's a function you can use. So before I start shopping as a customer, I'm clicking this button to read more. So this is a really good time for you because like it's not a normal farmers market situation right now. You're going to want to tell your customers they have to arrive at a certain time. Maybe they have to wear a mask. That's just kind of like preliminary information you want to share with them before they place an order for your market. So I read through this. This all looks good to me. I'm going to confirm this, and it's going to ask me what date I'm shopping for. If you have markets that run on multiple days of week, there's going to be products that aren't available on Saturday, but they're available on Wednesday, and vice versa with vendors. So vendors might be bi-weekly. It'll only show the customers what's available to me this upcoming Saturday. This isn't that exciting because this market only operates this Saturday right now. So these are all the things available to me. List it first based on category. I can filter and like choose a specific category I want to look into, or I can search by vendor. So this kind of goes back to the work that the vendor puts into creating their profile. You're going to want to add a logo. You're going to want to add pictures to your product. I could read more about this particular vendor. They have like our story here. They have the website. So I'm going to add some cherry tomatoes. I'll go back so that I can shop by category, and I'll order some pea shoots and a lamb box. So at this point, I would check out. This is the cool thing about What's Good. Again, it's one consolidated experience. So to the customer, they're not placing an order with every single vendor. That actually like really, really hikes up the participation and the sales. Our average order size on What's Good is like hovering around 80. That's shot up quite a bit since COVID because people are really buying more local and they're just panic, but I don't know what you want to call it, but before this all happened for the last 3 years, the average order size was $50 with an average of 5 vendors purchased from. So again, I'm going to check out. This all looks good to me. It reviews, again, this information, where I'm picking up, my card information that I've saved. We have the function for like coupons if the market wanted to offer like $1 off. Something else to consider is we do offer offline payment for markets that want to offer SNAP as like you obviously need to qualify with us. The users that are going to be paying offline, they'll have an option at checkout not to pay with a card. And then we provide you basically with a sheet of what they ordered, how much it costs, so that you can process that payment at the market. So this is what it looks like. Feel free to ask me any questions after this. I'd be happy to chat some more. So thanks again for your time.
Thank you, Sarah. So the next option that we're going to share is called Food for All. It is another free to the market platform. And we have Jeffrey Carver, who is from the Morgantown Farmers Market. He is on their board, and he's going to share some more information about their experience and how they're using Food for All for their market this year in this season.
Thank you, Matthew. And let me share my screen here. There we go. You should be seeing the Morgantown Farmers Market website. I'm Jeffrey Carver, and I'm the Vice President of the board for the Morgantown Farmers Market Growers Association. I do not work for Food for All. This is just one of the platforms that we kind of chose to go with for our market, we opened our summer markets on May 2nd, 2 Saturdays ago, operating solely as a drive-through pickup pre-order only market due to the restrictions due to COVID-19. We're in Mon County, so we have we're still considered a hotspot, so we're limited to 5 people in gathering space. And we just weren't going to be able to operate as a market in that capacity. So we went with an online system. We did look at several of them, including the What's Good app, Farm to Table. There's several of them out there that we looked at, and we landed on Food for All, mostly because of the ease of operation. There's advantages and disadvantages to that. And so I'll just walk you through what we've been doing, and again, I'm happy to answer any questions that we have as well. So this is our regular web page. What we've added this year is the shop page over on the right-hand side and the COVID-19 page. I'll go to our COVID-19 page so that you can see how our market operates right now. This area here that's shaded with these cars in it, that is our regular market pavilion. It's a covered open air pavilion. It's part of a city parking lot that we get exclusive use to on Saturday morning. The church next door is also part of a city parking lot here, and we have pretty much exclusive access to this parking lot. So normally on a market, you don't see all these cars in here, not for our drive-through market anyway. Cars enter here and they get checked in. This is kind of a choke point right here. So we get them checked in, get their names, determine if they need something from a cooler, the meat or the eggs that they might have ordered, just so that we can alert the folks that are pulling the food that they've got something that's not sitting on our tables. When a vendor shows up in the morning, we get there at about 7 o'clock. Our market opens at 8:30. And the tables are set out. We've actually started setting the tables out down the middle, and we have 2 lanes of cars going down either side of the tables. All of the orders are laid out on the tables from all of the vendors, alphabetized by customer's last name. So my name's Carver. Let's say I order from 3 different vendors. Each of those vendors would place my order on the C table under my name, and they'd all be placed there together. And the way the market operates is as they come in, they drive through. If they do need to pay, and Food for All also has an offline pay option of pay by check or Snap EBT, we make sure that they get routed into the right lane over here. Shear the first and takes care of those transactions. Since we've started, we've been doing about 150 cars each week. We expect that to grow pretty rapidly here as the month ends out and we start getting more produce. A lot of our vendors are pretty limited in what they supply right now, with mostly just being the meat, the eggs, and the value-added products right now, because there's not a lot of produce in stock. A lot of our vendors even lost what they planted this past weekend with the hard frost that we got. So at any rate, they come in, they have their last name, a sign with their last name in their window, and a vendor is assigned to a table, and they deliver that person's materials or product to their car, and they exit out and go on their way. We do have a set of rules. We've been really good about posting that on our social media sites. We do have a walk-up area here, which we do have marked off for 6-foot distance, social distancing, so that people don't get backed up in lines. And that has not been a problem for us at all. Out of the 150 cars, we usually have about 10 who need to pay at the beginning of the market. So as they drive in, they have to stop there. People stay in their cars. Everybody's wearing masks, including the vendors and the volunteers at the market. Most of the people driving through are wearing masks too, which is nice to say. We have asked for them to do that. It's not a requirement, but we have asked for them to do that, as you can see down here. So that's kind of our market page in terms of COVID-19. Now I'm going to take you into our shop page. And basically, this is just a link to each of our vendors' websites where they have their shopping page set up. So and I'll show you what the shopping pages look like. We didn't require our vendors to use Food for All. Many of them had an online shopping platform already, and we didn't want to make them switch. So if that was working for them, they were allowed to stay with their own system. And we've got somebody here like Mike's Berry Patch, where they are not going with an online sales system at all. They are selling simply off their phone number and email. So each vendor was allowed to choose. With that being said, I think we only have 5 vendors out of the 25 to 30 that we have who don't have an online presence, an online shopping experience. So I'm going to now show you the customer shopping experience. One of the disadvantages to Food for All, and I'll say that right up front, is that you do have to shop each individual vendor and check out at each individual vendor separately. So if I want to order from Evan's Knob and Patty's Pastries, she has the most fabulous donuts, by the way. I have to do 2 separate transactions for Evan's Knob and Patty's Pastries. So I'm going to go into Evan's Knob here. And so this is the customer side of things. I'm going to order 2 bags of these blue potatoes. They make the most colorful mashed potatoes I've ever seen. We absolutely love them. So I'm going to order 2 bags. I'll add that to my cart. And down here, I'm going to get some grape jelly because my daughter just loves the grape jelly because it's not like uniform like in the store. She likes the chunks. So we'll add that to the cart. And then to check out, I just come up here, click on the cart, and I'm ready to check out. I do have to select my pickup location. That location is going to be our Morgantown Farmers Market, and this Saturday is 5/16. We have a cutoff time of noon on Thursday for the orders. Some of our vendors do allow orders up through noon on Friday, but that's the absolute market cutoff. Our bakers like to have a little bit of a head time. So noon on Thursday is what we list as a cutoff. And so if I went to one of our bakers and ordered something at 3 o'clock this afternoon, it would only allow me to select next week's market. It would not allow me to select the market for 5/16. So that's kind of the customer side of things. And like I said, I do have to check out separately with each vendor. So what I'm going to show you now is the vendor side of things, just real quickly. It allows for point of sale, which allows me to, if I've got my page set up, but I can't be at that market, I'm going to have somebody else selling for me. They can have their own user login without being an administrator. They can just do point of sale, so they can record what was bought and sold. We aren't using that right now because we aren't able to do point of sale purchases. We're pre-order only right now. So the point of sale would be if you were running an open air market, you could have your seller, the person who's operating your table for you, log the things that are sold and the quantities and whatnot. So I'm going to go in as a seller. Similar process to the What's Good app. You set up an account. You have to put in your bank account that tracks. They also use Stripe as a processing, payment processing form. So a lot of similarities there. I won't walk through that. You know, Stripe has a 2.9% processing or transaction fee plus 30 cents per transaction. So, and that's pretty common across all the platforms. Food for All then charges a 2.6% fee on purchases, and that goes into supporting the software, the use of the software. And again, all platforms have multiple, all the platforms are going to have some sort of fee structure. We went with Food for All because it was a little bit lower fee structure, and the back end of things, working on the adding product, we felt was just a little bit easier, but they're all very similar. So I don't want to put one up against the other. I just want to show you what we've been working with. Again, I don't work for Food for All. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to add a product. I've got 2 things in here already. I'm going to add something. It's a farm ranch good. It's going to be my sugar snap peas. And I'm going to add a picture. Hopefully it pops right up the way I want it to. There's my peas. I'm going to scroll over here. That looks like a better picture right there. I am not a vendor, by the way. I play music at the market, and I sit on the board because I'm passionate about the market and getting product from farmer directly into the hands of the customer. So don't take my little grow box here of sugar snap peas that my daughter just loves as an example of the type of farmers that we have at the Morgantown market. This is on my own back deck. I took it yesterday. And I have the ability to make it active or inactive. Right now, I would not make this active. I don't have peas ready to sell, so I'd leave this as inactive, and I wouldn't make it active until I'm ready to start harvesting peas. Then you have the ability to set up a unit of measure. I'm going to sell these by the bag. 1 bag for a minimum order, increments of 1 bag. I'm going to sell these at $50 a bag because my daughter really loves them and doesn't want to get rid of them. You can set your prices. My product probably won't be available until the end of May, and I don't know, we'll say middle of June. So you can set how long that's going to be if you know what your growing season is and how long you're going to be able to produce. And then you have the ability to set your limits. And for the amount of peas that I have for my weekly limit, I'm probably only going to be able to sell 1 bag of peas for that limit. It's 1 pot, so I don't have a lot. And then I'm going to click save on that, and my product pops up. It's ready to go. And if I go back into my product menu, I've got all 3 of my items set up and ready to go. And it's that simple. And food for what's good is just as simple. There are a lot of good features in both systems. One of the disadvantages for food for all, and Sarah brought it up as an advantage in her system, is selling like meat by the pound is difficult here. Not so much for like ground beef, where I might have my packages of ground beef really close to 1 pound of ground beef, but more so for a roast, where I'd cut off a hunk of a roast, and that roast might be anywhere between 3 pounds and 6 pounds, and selling it by the pound is kind of important there. Otherwise, you're going in and you're kind of trimming your product to make sure that it's the right weight, or you're setting up the way our vendors have been doing it is if they have a 3 pound roast, they go in and they just add a 3 pound roast, and they have a limit of 1. There's only 1 3 pound roast. The other one might be 3.5. So they can set up 10 options within a beef roast or whatever. And they'd have 10 different weights in there that they could select, and they would limit each one of those options to 1, or maybe they had 3 that were all the same weight. But that's kind of the clunky part of selling product by the weight within Food for All. They are working on a patch to upgrade that, and it's supposed to be due out this June. I heard from Cami, the U.S. support person here out in Oregon, that was an upgrade that they were bringing. And so we've been really, really pleased with it. Our, of course, we'd all like to be running as an open air market, but right now we're not allowed to. So we're doing the best that we can with what we have. I talked to several of our vendors, like one of our bakers said the first week she sold more that first week than she normally sells in a full-fledged open summer market. Although the last week was about half as much, and this week her orders are down yet again. So right now we're experiencing that everybody wants to get out and support their local farmers. So there was a big push because we opened the summer market, but there's not a lot of produce available. So people came out to support, but the stuff that they want just really isn't in season yet. So we expect to see those orders pop back up coming again here in another 2 weeks probably as the greenhouses and hot tunnels start to produce. But our bakers absolutely love the system because they know what they have ordered on Thursday at noon. They know what they need to bake on Thursday and Friday. They don't waste anything when they come to the market. They aren't taking anything back home with them. So for them, it's a lot less waste. For some of our bigger vendors that do both value added and meat and produce, the pre-packaging side of things, of just running an online market or a pre-order market that's drive-through, that's been a lot of extra work for our vendors. And so those have been some of the concerns and complaints that we've had in moving to an online only drive-through market. And I mentioned earlier the customers needing to check out at for each vendor. Of course, that's what they'd be doing if they came into the market. They'd run their credit card or they'd be paying cash at every table they went to. So it's really not different, but it seems different because they're entering their credit card into the system 4 times if they're making 4 orders. So I'll end with that and be happy to answer questions as they arise.
One comment we did have was about the security levels of the different platforms. I'm guessing that has to do with credit cards and transactions. So I'm not sure.
I just posted Stripe's. So Stripe is the payment processor for both web about it. I linked their security information, and this is what I refer any vendors to. It's pretty boring. But
and Food for All uses Stripe as well, so that's a pretty common credit card platform. I know that you know, the HTTPS protocols are in place when you get to the checkout page, and that's the secure software for online purchases. It'd be the same as ordering through Amazon. Now, I personally don't let the Food for All system save my credit card. You do have that option. But I don't do that for any place that I shop online. That, for me, that's just good online shopping practices.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Next, we have Kelsey Abad from Turner Appalachian Farm Collective, who uses Local Food Marketplace, and she's going to speak a little bit about some of the options of Turnrow this season and how both vendors and markets might be able to participate.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Again, my name is Kelsey Abad. I'm with Turner Appalachian Farm Collective. For those of you who are unfamiliar with us, or this might be sort of your first exposure either as a farmer or a farmer's market or other type of market, want to just take a couple of minutes to talk through a little bit about who we are and what we do before we kind of go any deeper into specifically the LFM system and things like that. So this is us. This is Turnrow. We are a network of farm-related businesses, nonprofits, organizations, folks that are just really passionate about building a strong, equitable food system here in West Virginia and Central Appalachia at large. If you haven't been to our website before, I highly recommend at least sort of checking out this video. Can you all see my screen okay? Okay. Definitely give that a little listen. It kind of talks about our mission around working with farmers and helping them grow their operation through access to diverse markets. So, one of the problems about being in a very geographically isolated place is that it's really hard to market yourself and get your product where it needs to go in a quick and efficient way. So Turnrow is kind of the matchmaker between farmers of all different sizes, scales, and crop diversity to the wide variety and spectrum of potential buyers, restaurants, caterers, event spaces, institutions, school systems, niche retailers, special event spaces, etc., as well as individual consumers through the Local Food Marketplace platform. So when you click on the Shop Now button, it'll bring you over to LFM. And this is the live online farmers market that we operate every week, all year long. Opens Wednesday mornings at 6:30 in the morning, and customers have until Saturday evening at 11:30 to place their order. You can see it's similarly, organized by category: vegetables first, meat products, baked goods, all the things that you would see generally at an open air farmers market, just listed digitally. Individual producers, similar to the other platforms we've discussed, can update their producer profile, talk a little bit about who they are, how long they've been in business, what sets their operation apart. Maybe it's a special grandma's recipe for a jam or a jelly, or it might be a grass-fed operation for cattle, etc. So we have lots and lots of different things listed on our site every week. And we also include some personal care products as well, and things are constantly changing from one week to the next. Customers have the opportunity to shop by producer. This is just a list of all the current producers that we have for this week. And again, that's always changing as farms are expanding their operation, new products become seasonally available. There's also an opportunity for folks to shop by attribute, which is really exciting as there are more and more kind of uniquely regional attributes that we can assign to certain products. That's been an interesting development for some of our producers. Not going to spend a ton of time going through the customer shopping experience. It's very similar. Kind of drop down, add as many as you want to your cart. When you're ready to check out, it is one simple checkout process. So one entry of a credit card, you can save it on file or not. And then that's that. Very easy for customers to learn about individual products, learn about specific producers, and just kind of get to know the farmer as best they can through a digital platform. From the producer perspective, what happens at 11:35 p.m. after that shopping period closes for customers is you get to see on your producer profile side, here's an example of an active producer for this week. You get to see, how many orders have been placed, what product it was. There's this thing called a pick list, which shows you both the summary as well as the detail of exactly, how much you need to harvest, how does it need to be packaged, what customer is it for, and what region. So we operate all across the state of West Virginia. We've got 8 different aggregation points and drop-off locations for customers to pick up and producers to drop off. So in terms of the back-end logistics that we deal with and that we specialize in, it's really important to kind of know where product is going, so that everything that's going to Huntington gets on the correct vehicle, and things that are, heading to Lewisburg get on a different vehicle with a different route and a whole different set of checklists and safety precautions. So this is kind of what the producer platform looks like. You get to add different products at any time. Similarly to the other platforms that we've gone through today, not necessarily all of them are active at the same time. So you can take your time as a farmer, add things in as they become available or as you expand your operation. And then the availability portion is where you list specifically what you want to sell for that particular week. So, last week, let's say you harvested all your kale and you sold out and you're real happy about it. Well, that plant is going to need some time to recover before those leaves get mature, so that might not be listed for the next 2 weeks, and you have the control as the producer to decide how much you're going to sell, what quantities, what price points, as well as the selling unit. So if you want to sell them in half-pound bags versus 1-pound bags, if you want to do a deal like 2 for $5 bags instead of 1 for 4, it is also a very vendor-driven, farmer-driven profile. It's really, really a lot can be categorized and unique to you depending on how you want to set it up. Yeah, so that's kind of just a quick overview of the LFM system. Specifically thinking about, working with Turnrow, we've experienced a huge increase in our sales for the retail site and therefore increased demand for new producers. So if you're on this call and you're a farmer and you're looking for new ways to sell your product, I would love to see if Turnrow is a good fit for you. We have different aggregation points in Huntington, Charleston, Fayetteville, Lewisburg, and we also distribute into those regions. So there's a couple of different ways that we can get all of your product to one place, and then we do the logistics of saying, okay, these 10 items are going to Huntington, where our staff is putting it into the bags, making sure the bags end up to the customer and facilitating the customer pickup. So for you as a producer, it's actually a really great opportunity to kind of do a 1 week harvest, make sure everything is labeled and packed properly, and then that's the last thing you do. You're not driving to 6 different places and handing off to potentially 50 different customers. For the farmers markets, or those on the call that are managing their own farmers markets in areas, there's definitely an opportunity for us to expand our drop locations and provide this platform to producers in your area, as well as customers in your area. So if you're managing your online farmers market, some of those producers might be interested in listing with us, and we might be willing and able to partner with you to facilitate an additional benefit that you can offer to customers that are already going to your farmers market and already shopping that hyper local region. So if you're interested in that, I'd be super excited to hear where you are, what kind of infrastructure you have, just to give people a general idea about timelines and turnaround. Usually takes us about 2 weeks to turn around onboarding producers, which is pretty quick. We can sort of get your profile listed, get your products updated, figure out all the back-end payment, etc., walk through all that training for how to use the platform, and start selling. So if you've got a high tunnel, if you've got a garden that you normally sell at a bunch of different farmers markets and you're not able to do that now, we might be able to support you. For farmers markets that are wanting to be a drop location to provide this service to their customers in their local community, it's a little bit more of a complex decision to make sure that that happens properly and that the right infrastructure is there. Definitely still on the table, and we're always expanding where we have locations and what kind of support is needed on the ground. So please don't be shy to reach out. Here is sort of just a little map of the different places that we are at weekly. So if you can imagine a bunch of little trucks driving around the Lewisburg area today, and going up to Charleston, heading over to Huntington. We're also going up through the Morgantown area, as well as going all the way up into Wheeling. So anywhere kind of along these general routes, we'd be interested in talking about a place that might be a good fit for an additional location for customers to pick up. So and Fayetteville is also another one that I don't have pinned on this map, that is sort of a new addition to our regular weekly logistics. So that's my time. Thank you all. And looking forward to some one-on-one conversations and hopefully some questions.
Thank you, Kelsey. So at this time, we're going to go into sort of question discussion. If you are seeking technical support for any of these platforms, or if there's none of these that interest you and you are still looking for something that fits, please in the chat box put your name, your market, your email or phone number, and county, and then we will be reaching out to you after this call to do more one-on-one technical support versus this being sort of a question and answer period that could get into the weeds a bit. I have listed all the staff that's on this call today from the Food and Farm Coalition that you can reach out to at any time if you're in their region or having other questions or support needs outside of market platforms. So at this time, if anyone has any questions for any of our speakers or any discussion they'd like to start, again, unmute yourself and we can get started.
I was tasked with, for the Morgantown Farmers Market, I was tasked with finding a system that we thought would work. I came to the board with 3 recommendations, and the board chose Food for All, mostly because they thought it was probably the simplest one to use. Our board president, at his own admission, is not technologically savvy. He and technology are not friends at all. Now, fortunately, the only thing he sells is eggs and sweet corn, so he only had one thing to put in right now. And once the bank account information is in, putting in a picture or an item is pretty simple. I worked with about 5 of our vendors maybe to start setting up their sites, and once they figured out how to do it, they took off with it. And it was, repetition is our friend when it comes to learning something new. And so once they started putting in 1 or 2 items on their own, they did pretty well. And I did this all remotely. I did it through Zoom. I shared screens. I had them share screens with me. With our president, that was even a challenge, getting him to figure out how to share a screen on Zoom. He'd never used it before. And I've been facilitating all of our board meetings via Zoom. So I've been doing most of the tech stuff. And I was surprised. One of our bakers, Patty, and I don't think she would be upset if I shared this. She was so worried about food for all, and she's a little bit overly dramatic, and she's this great big personality. I love Patty, and I love her donuts even more, as one might be able to tell here. But she even got her stuff in, and when she started getting 1 or 2 items in, she just took off, and she's got all of her stuff in now, and she did it all on her own. I was super impressed with, specifically with her. I was like, I never thought she would even use the system. And now she's probably the market's strongest proponent for the online system. And I don't think it would have mattered if we would have used Food for All or Source What's Good or Farm to Table or any of the other systems. The features are heavier in some of the systems, and that was, part of it was how much work do we want to do as a market board to kind of monitor what's going on with orders and whatnot. That was part of our decision in going with, and again, it came down to What's Good and Food for All at the end, and those were the 2 that kind of were the least amount of work on the back end for the market itself. But from our farmers' perspectives, I haven't had too much trouble. Now I've got 2 farmers. They both sell like fruit, and just one of them's just sweet corn, and one of them sells all kinds of fruits, apples and peaches and whatnot. So neither one of them are coming to the market right now because they don't have any product available. I'm a little bit concerned that with our frosts that we've had here recently, and the fruit trees being in full bloom during that frost, that maybe they're not even going to be at the market this year at all. I don't know how much of their crop they will have lost this year. But those are the 2 I'm a little bit worried about. And I think they're just waiting to see what's going to happen. There's rumor that maybe we're not going to be a hot spot county after maybe like May 21st is the rumor. Maybe that's the request of our county commissioners. I saw that on Facebook today. And so if that happens, then we can open up to 25 people at a time. We're probably going to phase out the drive-through market, and we'll operate a little bit of open air as well as our drive-through market, to allow particularly the produce vendors are the ones who are really wanting to get to do open air market. There's still going to be restrictions. We're not sure how that's going to work. That's a lot of discussion for us, but I haven't had too much trouble in supporting them remotely. It would have been a lot easier if I was sitting at the computer with them. I'll be honest with you. But I haven't had too much trouble supporting our farmers locally. The bigger issue that we run into in supporting them remotely is whether or not they have decent internet access at the home. Because if they're trying to run things off of their cell phone hotspot for their Wi-Fi, and I'm trying to share video and audio screen, that sometimes causes some problems there. And so I think that would probably be the biggest barrier that I see. I haven't had any have trouble with the system.
And Matt,
Yeah.
I would say that was some concerns I had, both because I'm working with one lower capacity market right now that they can barely get a Facebook post posted, and then arrange a time to meet someone in town. And so that's sort of why we chose to share 2 platforms that were a little more, that did cost money and were a little more high capacity, and then What's Good and Food for All, which was the more low capacity, that between our staff and then maybe some of the some board members of the local markets, or a family member or a child. We've seen that a lot, is that they have someone else doing the posting for them, that they could make it happen one way or the other.
Yeah, we have one vendor, she doesn't do anything electronic at all. Her daughter does all the posts for her. She actually chose not to do the online system. She's just taking orders by phone call, and we do allow that. They can still come to the market. It's still a pre-order. They have to send us a list of the people who have ordered and how many packages they have packaged for that person. So this might be package 1 of 2 and 2 of 2. And that the label gets stapled right onto the package that they have, and it gets put out on the table. So we do have some folks that are a little bit lower tech, and those tend to be some of our smaller vendors, and they don't have a lot of product that they're selling anyway. We've got one vendor who only sells honey. We've got one who's online, and we have another vendor who's taking orders only via their own webpage. And I can tell you, the one who's on our Food for All app is taking orders, and they're there every week and they're having sales. And the other vendor who's taking orders by phone is not at our market right now. They've not been making sales enough to come into town for the market to make it worthwhile. So having that online presence is important. And I don't know how much of this, and Matthew, this may be to you with Food and Farm Coalition, to try to help vendors figure out how to get some marketing experience and how to market their product and how to develop a clientele. That's, I think, what we're seeing here in Morgantown. The people who are selling stuff are the people who have a clientele that they've built up a reputation. They have a clientele that they typically sell to. They're able to reach out to that clientele either through an email newsletter or a Facebook post of their own. That's how people are selling stuff. And the online system is just facilitating the sale. That, I think Sarah will probably, she did comment to this a little bit about on the What's Good app, and I've talked with Cami about this as well, that once farmers go to having an online sales platform of some sort, they see an increase in sales. And Sarah mentioned that their typical sales were 50 and now they're 75. And Cami indicated something very similar in Food for All, that farmers see a 15 to 20% increase in sales just by having that online presence. So
I would say that's something that we've also seen here at Turnrow as well, that there is a little bit of a technology barrier to begin, because there are so many platforms out there, and as a producer, as a farmer, you might be using 2 or 3 of them to sell your product, in addition to traditional farmers market sales, and maybe doing a little bit of wholesale work, and you have some contacts with your local restaurant that you're dealing with. So I think there is an understanding that there's a lot out there, and it can be a lot to ask of an individual who's really just wanting to be out in the field and growing more food, or in the kitchen, baking more baked goods. One of the things that I like about the LFM system is it is very customizable. And I think that's also something that you'll see across different platforms, is that there are producers of ours who categorize their products in the exact same way. And it's very easy. You type in one number a week and you get your pick list, and you print out your labels, or you handwrite your labels, and that's that. And then we have some other more advanced producers that are really trying to utilize every feature that's on there to be super customizable for meat weights and specificity, and change automatically seasonally, and availability numbers that update based on what's harvested and how often they're harvesting. So there is a little bit of a sliding scale of, like, if the system can meet you where you're at. So if you're like, I just want to sell my maple syrup in one quantity and one size for one price, that's great. If you want to do something a little more complex and do a bulk order buy, or a minimum order, or categorize it in a certain way so that it shows up on the website in a particular order, there's a lot of that customizable features that can happen by product, by category. by producer, etc. And so it is really something that can meet you where you are as the producer, or as a farmer's market too, if this is something that you're looking to offer all of your producers, knowing that you have that foundation that can get more and more complex and more specific, or can stay, very basic for those that are really only able to work at that level. So I think that's sort of one of the perks about going online, is that, there's all kinds of information out there. You can take what you need and leave the rest behind.
I guess one last question I have is, when did you all start the process of creating these platforms for your markets? Because we just started talking about it within the last 2-3 weeks, and I feel like I'm way behind. And I didn't know how long it's taken you to get to the point that you're at.
So for us, we've been using the LFM system for over 5 years, maybe 5 years, going on 5 years now. And it's definitely been an evolution. So the features that we've started with, and how to get producers online and how to get products listed, started at very rudimentary, and now we've expanded to delivering in 7 or 8 different locations, multiple routes going out every week, multiple drop locations. We service roughly about 200 customers a week across the state, and that is usually between 50 and 75 different producers that we're also servicing to make sure that all those transactions happen. So when we started, it was one location, half a dozen producers, and we've grown. And I think what is really great about all of these platforms is that these features can be turned on incrementally. So, when you begin to operate as a farmer's market, you can say, okay, this is what we're going to have our producers do. This is going to be the standard. And as you get comfortable with that as a market and as a market management team, then you can continue, to offer more. Maybe it's multiple pickup times for customers, or maybe it's multiple drop-off times for producers, etc. You get to determine when those levers are pulled and shifted as you become more comfortable with the platform that you're utilizing.
Jeffrey, you
I think my answer. Yeah, so my answer is maybe a little bit shorter, 2 weeks. Actually, it was about a month from the time that we knew that we needed to move to an online platform, from when we had our first conversation with the health department and they said, no, you are not operating this way. From that time, it took us about 2 weeks to kind of research the products that were available. This is not our platform. We bought into this essentially, not financially, but we chose an existing platform to utilize. From the time that the board decided that this was the platform, so that was 2 weeks in, that the board made the decision to go with the Food for All app. From that decision on a Friday, on Tuesday night, we had a training session with Food for all of our vendors. And within the 2 weeks, on May 2nd, we started our first drive-through online pre-order market. And so from the time that the board made a decision to the time that we opened as a drive-through pre-order market was 2 weeks. But it really took about a month for us to kind of weed through what the services that we wanted out of a platform, what we thought our vendors were capable of doing, getting our vendors on board. And then most of that 2 weeks, I was helping the vendors get started and try to figure it out. We have a few vendors who still aren't there yet, mostly because their product isn't ready. And so they've kind of not really rushed to set up their online system. They're taking their time learning how to use it, things like that. But most of our vendors were in on that first market, and everybody was there and willing to help and work. And we were all super nervous about it because we didn't know how it was going to go. We didn't know what orders we were going to get, if we were going to get any orders at all. So I lost a few nights of sleep over that because I knew if it went poorly, it was all on me. And if it went well, it was probably going to be on the vendors, that they did a great job. And I'm happy for that to be the case. They did a great job, and we've been reasonably successful. Our sales aren't what they would be for a normal market at this point. You know, we're down, but we're happy to still be selling.
All right, there
Our
is anything
markets,
else? I'll go ahead.
I can just say for what's good. So we offer like technical support and by we I mean me. So when I work with a market, I go through this whole process of onboarding, and that really takes off the responsibility of the market manager chasing down these vendors to complete their profiles and add products and help them connect their payment account. The fastest I've done it is 8 days. That was awful for everyone involved. The average is about 2 weeks. So yeah, it's a pretty quick implementation. It's really as fast as the vendors can go. If everybody was like, yay, like I'll go connect my bank account right now. In theory, you could get it started in 3 days because of the verification process, but that's not how the world works. So but yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, and I would say two weeks generally for us is about the same from the time in which we have a farmer who says, hey, I think this might be something of interest to me. I think it might be something that we'd be able, you know, to make work on our farm within the time frame that we work within in terms of our online market being open and when we're expecting product to be delivered. It's generally about a 2-week turnaround time from that initial inquiry to, hey, let's evaluate, is this a good fit for both you and for us? B, let's get your profile set up. I do a lot of the same technical assistance that you're talking about, Sarah, in terms of sitting down with farmers and saying, okay, if this is how you want to sell your product, this is how you need to set it up in the system. If this is how you want to see, you know, how much kale you need to harvest in order to meet this specification for this type of customer, then this is how we need to categorize it within the system. And then after that, okay, now that you've got those first ones set up, how did you harvest? How did you pack? Is it labeled properly? Did it arrive in the right container? And how does the product look? Is it washed properly? Continuing to go through some of that food safety a little bit more strictly under COVID specific, you know, social distancing regulations and all that jazz. So yeah, it's generally about 2 weeks from when someone is interested to when we can get their product sold and delivered to the customer for the first time, and for that producer to see that whole cycle of listing product, selling product, delivering product, customer happy, and then payment for that product.
Thank you. And with that, we're a little over an hour, so I am gonna end this right now. But I want to thank our presenters, and Matt, we will be in touch soon with Snapstretch.
Awesome. Thank you.
Matthew.
All right, thanks.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.